Welcome to MLWR Reason, the podcast, a space dedicated to fostering open and honest conversations about the complex realities of fatherhood and ultimately manhood in today's world. We will be exploring the unspoken issues that we men face, shedding light on what society expects of us, our emotions, and our social interactions at all levels, especially within the family. This podcast isn't just about acknowledging issues, it's about us men being accountable, transparent, and finding solutions while building strong support systems. So men, let me reason. Hey peeps, welcome back to the second episode of Men, Let Me Reason. We are continuing our talk about fatherhood. Today, we will focus on dads, redefining manhood, healing ourselves and our children. We really want to go back and delve right into the issues of fatherhood. This afternoon, we have with us Shawn Springer. Shawn is becoming a very fond friend of Let's Reason podcast. We have Dr. Walton, another brother, and we also have Adrian Green, no stranger. Men, let me reason. So, as fathers, and I know we are all fathers, how does we can keep it general. How does your past, your upbringing generally, let me just jump right into it, impact your ability to father your children? Shawn, I can start with you, man. You there thinking hard. I want
you started. He was in the speech.
All right, what you go, man?
I was
You reasoning, man.
Listen, that's a hard. I'm not saying that's a hard topic, but that's one of the pivotal, foundational topics for any man. Talking about kids, talking about relationship, talk about anything. Most men don't go that far back in their past.
But we need to.
We need to, because where you at now is impacted by your past. What you do now is a result of whatever you think you pushed away, whatever you pushed down and didn't want to say, the relationship you did or didn't have with your father, the relationship you did or didn't have with your mother. All of that comes out in what it is. All of that, you can put it like all of that was seeds. Mm-hmm. And the tree that you're eating the fruit from right now is a product of those seeds. Yeah. So if you look and you talk about, bad fruit here and bad fruit there, because you had bad seed in. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go far enough back and dig up all of that stuff, it's going to continue. Mm-hmm. And the funny part is most men, they get to a point and they I have anger issues, or I have this issue, and we try to deal with the anger issue. Okay, well, I'm gonna try to stop being more angry. But we don't realize that the anger is a product of something else.
Oh boy.
It came from something else.
Yep.
You mad now because back as a kid you didn't have your dad, and you running around with no father, you feeling lonely and left out, so you came up angry.
You know, enough men can disagree with you. Because the man can tell you about vex because of this or because of that or because of that, and they're not going to identify their behaviors as childhood behaviors.
But
the thing is, Fabian, first of all, who is to even say that the emotion that they're experiencing is anger? But that's a discussion for another time.
So, no, another time. Let me talk about that.
Let me answer the question that you posed to me first.
Yes.
Not having the opportunity to know my father. I saw my father twice. First time I was 16. The second time I was 21. And I was looking at him in a coffin. I was playing Paul Bearer at my father's funeral. Lifting a man who never lifted me as a child. But I made up in my mind then.
But how did that make you feel?
I really don't know what feeling I could have put there. Then it was, I think I was angry, but more than angry, I was hurt. I was disappointed, embarrassed at some point in time, because when you go to school and you have people, you're building your, what do you call this thing, the tree
Family tree. Yeah.
I didn't even know my father's name.
Yeah.
And this is at secondary school. So there was a lot of embarrassment. So what as I said earlier, who's to say there's even anger? Because at that point in time, I felt angry. I thought I was angry.
Yeah.
But as I got older and experienced certain things, then I realized it wasn't really anger that I was feeling. There's a lot of emotions. Anger was one of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even the most dominant one. But then, as I said before, I was trying to get to, I made up in my mind then that my children would not go through what I went through, not having a father present. So I decided, regardless of the situation, of the circumstances, that I would be present. They are not supposed to be wondering in secondary school, my father's name again, or when they have activities for parents to come up with the school, there's no father figure there. No. So your question was, how does it impact? I decided that I was going to be there for my children, even though my father wasn't there for me.
Excellent. Adrian.
Like Dr. Walton said, everything from your past impacts your present.
Yeah.
But not only your past, your parents' past, and your parents' past.
Yeah, boy.
So the question is, how far back do we dig? When do we stop digging?
Whoa.
And once we've dug, how we fill back in the hole?
That's right.
And to bounce off of Shawn, that ability to reflect, or that willingness to reflect, and to look back and to ask yourself some questions, and to not take yourself for granted, because most of us walk through the world thinking that I am how I am, this is how God met me, this is how I got to be. Not understanding that we are products of circumstances and experiences, and we are product in process. So if we wish to, we can reshape who we are at any point in time in life.
Yeah.
So Shawn, you would have done it. I'm sure Dr. Walton, you did it. I'm sure you did it, Fabian. I did it as well. All of us as men reflected on our childhood, reflected on our parenting experience, and decided what we would take forward and what we would leave behind.
Yeah.
But there's a degree of intentionality that is coming out. Like you gotta be real intentional to want to reflect on those things. Like you would see a particular behavior and ask yourself, where did that come from? That's an intentional action. That's you wanting to go back. But the average father, the average man ain't really interested in going back, because the back is so painful. I mean, that pain is so great. I mean, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the verbal abuse that a lot of we boys went through when we were young is so hurtful. And we find that is being replicated in our roles as fatherhood, as fathers.
I personally feel it. I know a lot of men who are willing to acknowledge it. But then there's another step now. It's easy to say that how my father was, I can never be like that, boy. But things happen underneath the surface. We have implicit biases and implicit behaviors and subconscious activity. And sometimes we in the midst of an activity, or in the midst of a behavior, or in the midst of an emotion, and we don't even stop to ask ourselves, what is the real root of this thing? We think it is because this woman acting up now, or this child acting up now, or this situation is what it is. But as you said, that intentionality and that willingness to stop and say, all right, there are aspects of this thing that I am not in total control of.
Yeah.
I got to dial it back and take some time.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of men that you say that and you look at self, but you got to get past the stubbornness of self. You got to get past the because most men's like, this is what I'm doing and it's right. Okay, you don't understand because you don't know the circumstance. This is how I'm acting because of this, and this. You got to be willing to listen to an outside voice, somebody saying, bro, that ain't normal. That you shouldn't act like that. That ain't right. Regardless of whatever it is, because if you brought up in that situation, you automatically gonna think it's right. Well, this is how I see my father do it, my grandfather do it, and this person do it, and this person do it. This must be right. Ain't nobody tell us nothing different. So for somebody to come in and be like, and the funny part is, it's usually your wife. It's usually that one on the other side.
Yeah.
That's like, that ain't right.
Yeah.
You know, and we get stubborn. We don't want to hear it because we ain't going to digging that well. So we like, nah, and we keep going on doing what we do. So we got to get past self first. We got to get past our own thinking of, I got it all together.
But I think that's ego. I think that's real
That's
ego.
big ego.
And not only ego, the fact that we were told that we are the leaders. We are the leaders of the household, you know. We are the ones to carry everybody's weight. It can't be wrong, not me.
It speaks to your topic of redefining manhood.
Boy. So let me reason. Let me reason, you know.
So hold on. Are you saying then that we're not to be the leaders? Or maybe we need to redefine what leadership means.
There you go.
I think that's really probably
We always talk about leadership, but we don't ever have a conversation about what leadership is.
What it means to be the head of a home.
Exactly.
Right.
Correct. And leadership within the whole concept of the relationship. You know, what does that look like? We just hear leadership, and this whole thing in our minds is like, yeah, we're going to be out front, and, you know, everybody else is going to be behind me. But not really delving deep into the fundamental principles of leadership. You know, and what does that mean? You know, the pressure that puts on men, even as they try to look back. Like how do I look back? But at the same time, society is telling me that I need to be this way. So I got this hurt behind me, but I still need to front it. But all the while, your children are watching on. Your children are watching on. You are developing a generation now. How does that work, you know?
It's difficult, and then just being real is difficult.
Yes.
As you said, because of the definitions and the image that we have of manhood, you're supposed to have it together.
Yeah.
You got things to do. You're leading. You got people to take care of. You have issues to solve, fires to out. Oftentimes you don't feel as though you got time to reflect and to sit and gaze at your navel and study your past. You moving forward. You building. You know what I mean? So I'd be real with you. For me, I think it is very, very difficult. And let's be real now. It is not only men that have a particular image of manhood. Women have a particular image of manhood too. So if you have a woman who does not want to see you vulnerable, who does not want to know that you got issues, who wants you to appear to have it together each and every moment and know what to do each and every time, you got a problem.
You know, I'm gonna go out on the limb and make this statement, right?
Women
insist that they want sensitive men. What they don't realize they want a man with sensitivity, They want a man with sensitivity so that when a woman is going through whatever she's going through, the man is sensitive enough to understand. What women don't seem to understand is that a man with sensitivity is a sensitive man. Therefore, when he is going through whatever he is going through, he wants to be able, as you were saying, Adrian, he wants to be able to display the vulnerability in front of you and don't feel judged by it. But there are a lot of women who want men who are men with sensitivity. They even sing about it. I want a man with sensitivity. I know the pattern afterwards, a man like me. However, when I get a man now who is sensitive, a man who is in tune with his feelings, so a man that is not going to fly off the handle but say, but you know, I felt hurt when you whatever, they can't manage that because the man is supposed to have them kind of feelings. According to the definition of manhood that has been defined by society and some women. So when you get in a situation like that, how is a man then supposed to redefine himself in the true sense of the word when he's living in a society that is not willing to accept the new definition of what it means to be a man?
Whoa.
Let me go further. Now we're living in a society that has conflicting definitions
of what it means to be a man.
So you know got many definitions of manhood that you got to choose from, and then hope that the definition you choose matches with the definition of the woman that you chose want.
You understand? So
It's complicated. And then we're black men.
Oh
You know what I
gosh.
mean? So when we talk about digging deep, intergenerational
Let me
issues,
go there,
you know,
man. Let me reason.
You know what I mean? Most of us have come up in households that were not ideal. Most of us have come up in parenting situations that were not ideal. So we're working up generations of issues in our relationship.
yeah.
But it's man, that's so deep. And now you got the situation where now you even talking about which one do you choose? This man, that man, this man, this man.
Or the man that just identifies as being a man.
Or the man that defies it. We ain't even going down that road right there. But it was a lot easier back in the day. It really was. It may not have been right. It may not have been the perfect, but everybody knew this is a man. You went out, you got the money, you brought it home, you put it on the table, and you're going, and you're disciplined. Not right. But it was something that everybody could at least say, agree on. Now you got, you need to be more sensitive. Oh, you too sensitive. Oh, you need to be more stern. Oh, you too stern. You're over here, you're over there. And now you have rifts in your house. Your wife, oh, no, you can't discipline him like that. What do you mean I can't?
But how do we regulate as men? Like how do we strike a balance and adjust to this contemporary environment? As you said, back then, there was a particular way of life. And you said it wasn't right. Your admission,
right?
But how do we? how do we now make it right?
Okay, right. The challenge is right.
Based on society standards.
Right. We threw out the baby with the bathwater. So we recognize that. Parents not bothered on. They were abusive in the discipline. We then determined we don't want to be abusive parents, so we ain't disciplining at all. So we threw out the baby with the bathwater, not trying to find the middle line. How can you still discipline your children without being abusive? How can you still if you have to share lashes, how do you share lashes without being abusive in the process? How can you speak to your children that the words then don't haunt them for the rest of their lives, but they still understand what you're saying and they're able to grow from the experience? Because to my mind, if the punishment that you're issuing, if the discipline that you're issuing, if the words that you're issuing are not resulting in growth, then what is the purpose of it? At the end of the day, children, even if they don't, if you don't see the growth at the same time, somewhere down the road, you should be able to see what I said to them way back then, which they didn't understand at the time. They're able to grow as a result. If as a result you find that the child is not growing, and furthermore they're reverting and think to younger behaviors and that type of thing, maybe we need to then take a look at that as well. Yeah,
so we're looking at really breaking that generational cycle. Those behaviors that we experience versus what we should be doing now, because we want to see a difference in our children moving forward. But you know what? It's like standing in a bucket and trying to lift it. So difficult. Sometimes the level of self-awareness is not even there to acknowledge that those behaviors were wrong, And I can even tell you from personal experience, I struggle as a parent sometimes. Like I'm saying, I should not do this and I should not do that. But my past, my upbringing is so deep in me that I revert to my default setting regardless of how much training I have, how much times I talk about it, how bad I want to change. I revert to that default setting, but I would say that it is a journey. And I'm respecting that journey. I'm acknowledging it. And even the way I parent with my children is so much different from how my parents parented with me, even though it's far from perfect and there are many areas that I would really like to change. I don't know.
This issue of it being simpler in the past and making choices, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater and creating a better situation in the present. I think that's a big part of the issue. A big part of the issue is that we live in a moment in history where is almost like a free for all, in terms of who and what you can be and how you can operate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now, if we were living in the past, it was simpler.
Yeah.
These were the rules.
Yeah.
This was what was
There
supposed
were
to
no
be.
shades of grey, just black and white.
Black or
Yeah,
white.
yeah.
And whether or not people actually live by them,
It's
you
a
know, in
different thing.
the background,
Yeah.
is a different thing. But at least everybody knew what was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, with society being as open as it is, you even got to figure out which was the baby and which was the bath water. Even that sometimes can be difficult to figure out. So being a man in these times and being a father in these times, which equates, as we all agree, to some form of leadership, means being able to lead yourself first and decide for yourself what standards you're going to hold, how far you going or how far you ain't going, how far you going to allow the people in your family to go, how much will you accept, what will you not accept. I have made a decision, and I do it very often. I apologize to my children for my behavior. As you said, Fabian, oftentimes I don't operate in the way that, in the standard that I set for myself.
And that's okay sometimes, but you gotta acknowledge it.
I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I let them know, listen, we are all a work in progress, and you gotta figure out this world for yourself. There are aspects of this world that here and that come in that I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I want you to be able to think.
Yeah.
So we thinking together.
Yeah.
I didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
My parents wanted to think for me.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And again, it's about relationships with your children. I mean, we accept that our generations before, you know, our upbringing would have been painful in many instances, you know. But we have to make that decision that we want to do better as men. Sometimes I can look at a man when I go out to talk to men, but even professional men. I mean, sometimes some of the higher, what we consider quote unquote as, you know, the doctors and the academics and everybody, and I'm speaking to many of them, and I can see the shyness in these men. There are many men that can't talk to you and look in your face. They cannot look in your face. They're talking to you head down. They're looking next door. They're looking here, there, everywhere. You know, there are men who are uncertain. There are men who have a very low self-esteem, but it's projected. And you may see a man dressing up all the time and overly doing so. But that's because as a low self-esteem, being you know. So and all of these are things that are hinged on those childhood traumas, you know.
Agreed. And there's something that you mentioned earlier to Fabian that I want to go back to. When you talk about reverting back to the old behaviors, even though you're trying to do something different, right? One of the things that I not discovered but came back to my mind recently, you know, we've conditioned children through certain behaviors, right? We teach children through certain things. We call it conditioning, whether it be classical conditioning or operant, we teach them. But I don't think that we as parents realize that we also became conditioned by our own practices. So if, for example, you got to realize that you come home on the evenings, the child want to play, you want to do your thing, throw 2 slaps and he go along and keep quiet, and you get to do what you want to do. Do you realize that you actually condition yourself as well?
Yep.
So the child may not have even done anything more than 2 slaps, but you know, you put them 2 slaps and he going to keep quiet. You didn't get through, you got to do so. What happened? 2 slaps.
Yeah. But and it replicates itself.
Over until again, now you start to look at certain things and you realize not only is it not right, but it is not bringing the desired result. So some things weren't right, but they got the result that you wanted. Now I'm not going to tell you keep doing those things to get the result, but not only is it not right, you're not getting the results that you want, but we're still doing it because our 4 parents did it, our parents did it, we do it, then we can get vexed now. And if you watch the dynamics between grandparents and grandchildren, we will get vexed when our children do it to our grandchildren. So then we turn around and spoil our grandchildren because we allow our grandchildren to get rid of things that we weren't permitted to get rid of, or even the children weren't permitted to get rid of. Look at it carefully. Look at any family that you know that have a grandparent, a parent, and a child, either in the same household or in close proximity. And you're going to realize that in a lot of cases, the parent says to the grandparent, but when it was that age, you understand? Happens all the time. So where do we break this cycle and start doing not just what is right, but what works.
We as men gotta look at ourselves for that one. I mean, you can't do nothing unless you look at self first and say, okay, this is how I'm gonna do it. And literally sit down and say, I'm going to figure out what my house needs to operate. Not what I see out there, not what I see, because social media is a terrible, social media is a beast.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we got parenting from our house, our next door neighbor house, the neighbor house, the community.
Right.
You get beat 3-4 times going up to your house because you done did something down the street. Now you got kids that learn from the world. I can look at my phone and be like, oh, such and such in Canada's parents don't beat them. He said they did right. They can't do the, wait, hold on. They got a law over there that say they can't beat their kids. Wait, hold on, mom. You can't hit me like that. Like, wait, what? No. This is our house, and we gotta instill that not only in ourselves but in our kids. Like, listen, the world is world, but this is where this is how we are doing this. This is how this family runs, not on what you see out there. And for us, we got to do the same thing. This is my family's going to run like this, not how my grandparents' family ran, not how my mom and dad's family ran. I'm going to figure this out for myself. I know for me, I always thought leaders were out front. I always thought, to be a leader, you got to be out front. You got to go out and be a leader. You got to be out front. And I'm not that type of out front type person. I'm the draw it out in the background, set it up, move it out, and just tell people what to do type person. So, and I always thought, no, that's not a leader. Somebody pulled me aside and be like, no, you lead real good. I'm like, but I'm not really. It's like, no. And they told me, they was like, go study wolves. And I was like, and I went and did it. Do you know packs of wolves that alpha male never is in the front? They set it up when you see them marching, the medium people, the strong ones are in the front, the weak ones are in the middle, and the medium is in the back. So they always protect the small. But that alpha is always in the back, watching over front. And that's how they lead. And they're the strongest packs that lead. So when I started realizing there's different ways to lead, it's not this, you gotta be this way, you gotta be that way. You got to learn to mold your leadership style into the people that are following you in your house. Wonderful.
But I really would like to focus on this whole reflective thing about men. Like how do we start that process? We talk about breaking generational cycles, and one of the things that I usually tell men is, have a conversation with yourself. It's art to journal. Write down 5 questions. 5 things about yourself that you like. Start there. 5 things about yourself that you don't like. And then those things that you don't like, how can you improve them? Start to work on yourself. We sit down, we write business plans, we write essays, we do all of these things, but we seldom put ourselves on paper. Put yourself on paper and see what it looks like, see what it looks like. Now, how do we as men, who are expected to be strong, show vulnerability and reach out for help? How do we even start that process? Like where do we go? Especially for the men that are watching this podcast. I want to start. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better man. How do I start to show that vulnerability? I don't care about judgment.
You gotta start, and you can't. And I know every man, you can't start until you find a place where you're comfortable.
That's self-awareness.
That's done.
You gotta be aware.
You gotta be comfortable, and that's not even with self. The situation or environment or organization or whatever group or the person that you're talking to, if you're not comfortable with them, you will never break down the stuff that's really underneath. And sad to say, most men aren't comfortable with their significant others to get to that point to say, listen, I'm vulnerable here and I'm vulnerable there. So that is the first place. And, going back to what you said about writing something down, about, writing down the things you like and the things you don't like about yourself, I go one further. I say, before you write down one about you think what you like and what you don't like about yourself, write down what you like and what you don't like about your father.
Whoa. Jeez,
And then look at that.
boy.
Start there.
That's a tough question, though.
Ooh.
And that's a tough question.
Whoa.
Because the reality is, many people, and it's not just men now, many people don't have that space where they feel safe to let their true feelings and their true emotions out. So when you see somebody who is like committed suicide, and people say, but I saw him last week, he was with the boys last week and everything was cool. He was surrounded by friends, but still totally alone.
Emotionally disconnected. Emotionally disconnected.
So that's difficult. If you don't have that space where you feel comfortable being vulnerable, what do you do? And that's a tough one. And I can say that two of you guys probably got closest to the answer. I think you got to talk to yourself, really and truly. You got to be able to look at yourself as honestly and as clearly as possible. Easier said than done, because we get out fooling ourselves.
So my view on it is slightly different to both, and maybe somewhat controversial.
That's all right.
Reality of the matter is, I am of the opinion that society really does not want to see men change, and I can tell you what I mean by that, right? It is easier to say that you got a lot of women because you're worthless than to say you have a lot of women because of your childhood experiences, because of your examples. Because then when we fix you, we have nobody else to pick at. It is easier than to say that you act angry because of. So we're not making excuses for behavior. We are understanding behavior and therefore trying to fix based on our understanding. And I am telling you, the society on the whole, this is from my social work, my social work hat now, is saying people really don't want men to change. If men change, who are you going to pick at next? It is easier to say, it's easier to keep a man down by using all these things than to say, okay, in light of these things, let us lift this man up. Because at the end of the day, it's not about fixing, That's my personal, it's not about fixing. Because if we fix the men and men become what we want them to be, and then sometimes maybe some of our own issues. So watch it. A woman has multiple men. You hear she didn't have a child. She didn't have a father in the home. She gravitated towards men. She was abused, therefore she gravitated towards men. So we always find a reason to explain why women behave a particular way. A man got a lot of women, he just worthless. He beaten, he is angry. What about the fact that he was abused as a child? What about the fact that he was sexually abused as a child? And in his eyes, he was a Dan because he's 12 and 13 and having sex with an 18-year-old woman. No tables turned, that 18-year-old man will be charged. How then do we tell that man at 25 years old that your first sexual experience when you were 12 was actually statutory rape? You were sexually abused. How then do we even begin to have that conversation and be able to fix the fact that since that experience at 12, he's seeking validation through sex. He's seeking it through sex. Have a lot of women because he's trying to seek that validation and is not understanding that's where it came from. How do we even start that conversation?
But you talk about how we start the conversation, but put that in context that this man is a father.
Exactly. And what lesson now is he going to teach his children? Because for him, that is where his validation comes. So when, God forbid, he had a boy. So because granted, if he has a girl, he's not going to want the girl to be the village man. But if he has a boy who is following his footsteps, well, whenever your age boy was doing this scene, next scene, third. So when we want to talk about really correcting these issues, we have to be willing to look at these really difficult questions and have these difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But again, come to we were saying, one of the things we need to focus on is living for ourselves and not for people.
Agreed.
I know
understand.
because what you spoke about is the perception society have of men or of that particular man. The question should be, what is the perception that man have for himself? How does he view himself? You know, we speak about leadership, and even here just spoke about personal leadership of self. You know, I think that's where we really got to start.
But you know, we have to accept too that, you know, what you call fixing, somebody else might call effing up.
Well, there you go, because you know what? According to everybody, it works.
What time is going to ask you what works? You know what I mean? Like, so it's really, as you guys have been saying, what works for me? How am I going to run my household? How am I going to run my family? How am I going to run my life? How am I going to lead myself? I understand that I have the ability to, and there are tools out there for me to do that that I may not be accessing at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. Because you know why? Because it is easier to view a whole egg than to see a broken one, even though the broken one can end in an omelette.
Oh my word!
But when you look when you look at all of that, you gotta, you know, you said the same thing. It's how do you see yourself? And the shameful part of that is most men's identity is what the outside looks in a man. And you can ask any man. You ask any man, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? 95% of the time, and I'm sure you can agree, 95% of the time they'll tell you, oh, I'm a CEO. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't ask you what you do. Ask you who you are.
Yeah.
Most men can't tell you who they are.
Because they don't know.
I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm strong-willed. Most men can't do that because they have no idea. All that's planted in their head is what has been shown to them by society.
Yeah.
So there's a school of thought that in most societies, what we so-called primitive societies, there are usually more in-depth and elaborate rites of passages for men than they are for women. One of the supposed reasons for that is that women, nature in its wisdom, understands that women being the bearers of life, their development cannot be left up to culture and society. So women have biological rites of passages in terms of menstruation and the changes in the body and birth itself, pregnancy itself is a rite of passage. But society has to provide those experiences for boys, and our society, because of the history that we have, has been stripped of the means and standards and frameworks around manhood. So we as men find ourselves in an open sea where we have to build them back.
Only black men.
Only black men?
Mostly black men.
Mostly
but if
black
you
men.
look at the Jewish society,
they got them.
They got this is when you become a man. You look at Spanish, this is when you become a man. Black men don't have that. They don't. There's no
I
time
become
for
a
that.
man when I have my first sexual experience.
That's it.
That is it for a lot of youngsters.
In secondary school when they get long pants.
Yes, correct.
So there is still a line that defines manhood. Is just that, again, is it functional? Is it really serving the purpose it's supposed to serve? What you come in long pants now, so you're a man. What does that mean? You just had sex, so you're a man. What does that mean? So there's no what's next. You claiming to be a man. What's next? There's none of that. So we understand the rite of passage. We understand when you come out from there that we're training you to know head your household. So you are at a place now you're having sex, you can get somebody pregnant. How does that prepare you to be a father?
Right.
That is the challenge that we have.
Yeah. But guys, I mean, the conversation is going excellent, and I would like us to, as we close up, let me focus on how do we move forward? How do we set that stage to be positive role models as fathers? Where do we start? How do we reflect that? Especially fathers to other boys who will eventually become men. You know, I know you got daughters, but I guess you probably got a perspective on it still. You know, I think I'll go. I think we need to be a lot more assertive in our positions. I think we need to do a lot more work on ourselves. I think we need to go to work on ourselves. We want to be in solid relationships. We want good marriages. We want good work environments, but we don't want good selves. You know, I think before we have strong relationships with our children and our spouses, and by extension our social environment, we gotta got a good relationship with self. We gotta really go to work on ourselves, our emotional being, our psychological being, how we connect and communicate with others. What does that look like? And I guess once we start to go to work on selves, then that positive trait that we want to see in role models would then shouldn't break. I don't know what you think.
Well, I like the question that was asked earlier, and the good doctor asked the question earlier about who am I? So I think I would start with trying to answer that question. Who am I? And not just who am I. Who am I when no one is looking?
Yes.
That's where we try to start.
Nice. Yeah.
Understanding, you know, like I said, not just writing down what I don't like about me, writing down what I don't like about my dad, writing down what happened there. Start with that, and then pull yourself into it and say, how did that affect me?
Yeah.
Once you can start getting your mind wrapped around that, I was affected in some way by that. And it's a lot easier than looking at, because nobody wants to look at themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're starting, it's easy to look at your dad and start placing blame. But then at some point, you're going to have to say, how did that affect me?
And then start taking blame
And
for
then
your own actions.
now start taking place for that.
Okay.
Now you start moving for that.
All right. Adrian.
And so I am responsible for myself. I'm responsible for me, for better or for worse, for good or for bad. That's the first step. But when it comes to being a role model, again, my view may be a little different. I don't think you choose to be a role model or you choose not to be a role model. As long as somebody modeling themselves after you, you are a role model.
It's true.
Right? So for me, do your best.
Yeah.
I can do my best.
Yeah.
Right? And I can let people know, listen, pick sense from nonsense here. They got some things I do well, they got some things I don't do so well.
Yeah.
You can learn from both of them.
It's true. It's true. Man, it has been a fantastic conversation, you know. I love when men get together and every reason. Thanks again, you know, Shawn.
Yes, sir. Cool.
Walton.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Trey. Always a pleasure, you know. And peoples, thank you very much for tuning in to this podcast, this second edition of Men, Every Reason. Look out for our next episode. A lot more to come. Peace out.